So now imagine me, someone who has recently finished their second to last quarter of college, just sitting in my dorm room, browsing through the long list of Game Pass games on my Xbox. Then I saw this game. It was called Signalis. I thought I heard that name somewhere before. I think Nitro Red made a video on it a while back, and maybe a couple of posts here and there online. But besides that, I knew little to nothing about this game. I took the plunge and downloaded the game, not sure what to expect from it, but maybe I would have a good time with it regardless. Little did I know, it would be something I would never forget, and captivate me so hard that I can never stop thinking about it to this day. That was well over a year ago at this point, and it's no longer on Game Pass too. I decided to buy a copy for the Switch this time around, and if you're asking, the Switch version's a pretty solid version all around. Signalis was a game developed by Studio Rose Engine, a two-person German team with additional help from some outside composers. This being their first and as of this time only game under their belt. It took 8 years for Signalis to see the light of day in 2022, and man, I can't imagine working on a project like that for a long period of time. But it seemed like it was all worth it in the end. Signalis ended up being incredibly well received by fans and critics, even winning a couple of awards, including Best Debut Game at the German Computer Game Awards of 2023. So, rock on, devs. So after the year since I last played Signalis, has my thoughts on it changed whatsoever? No, not at all really. But before we go any further, let's talk Signalis. Okay, so bear with me for a moment, since Signalis isn't the most simplest of plots. I still have a bit of a hard time comprehending what exactly has happened throughout the game, but I'll give it a shot anyways. We are seen waking up from cryosleep on a ship known as the Penrose, now taking control of a Lancer-type replica unit dubbed Elster, trying to figure out what exactly has happened to our ship and to find our Gestalt partner, Arian. Seemingly marooned on an unknown snow-barren planet, and with no sign of your partner, we venture outside to only find a hole in the ground. With no other choice, we continue further inside the hole to find a comms room. Alright. Once we pick up the book called The King in Yellow, which is a collection of short horror stories by Robert W. Chambers, we are suddenly greeted with flashing words on screen from H.P. Lovecraft's The Festival, reading,
"Great holes secretly are dug where earth's pores ought to suffice, and things have learned to walk that ought to crawl. Remember our promise, and to wake up."
And just like that, we're now in a bathroom, staring at ourselves, just like a certain other horror game, knowing we can't turn back now, and to try to fulfill that promise we kept. Look, if it wasn't obvious that Silent Hill was one of the major influences for the devs, just look at how you save the game. Let's just talk about the presentation real quick while we're at it, because goddamn, does this game nail the feel and look of a PS1 horror game. Even downright to the menu layouts and even how you interact with objects. The atmosphere is super thick too, with just the sound of your footsteps filling the hallways. But let's get back to the plot real quick. We wake up on a station S23 Spilitsky, I think that's best pronounced. We find a fellow replica unit named Star, asking if she recognized our Gestalt partner in the photo we have. She doesn't recognize the person in the photo, but she does inform Elster that if her partner was alive, she would likely be in the mines below the facility. But given how every other Gestalt we've seen so far is now dead, it's likely that she could be too. But with no other leads, Elster continues further into the facility. Soon she will encounter Alder, the facility's replica administrator, and is the most evil-looking person we've seen so far, and we know it too because he immediately pushes Elster down an elevator shaft the moment we meet him. There was a living Gestalt that Elster did encounter beforehand named Isha, but she won't come into importance a little bit later. Exploring through Alder's quarters, we learn that Alder has a counterpart working with him called Falk, which we also see lying in bed. Finally, we reach the mines. Not before seeing Aller get his justice served by getting stabbed in the eye by Isha and falling down a pit. Serves him right, the prick. We re-emerge from the same pit we saw at the very beginning of the game, only to see Aller again in front of a rectangular arch, the same one we also saw in the beginning, looking west for where too. But it doesn't matter at this point, since Elster just wants to find Arian. After trekking through the red desert, Elster finds the Penrose again, trying to open the hatch to the ship, but in vain as her arm was torn from her body. Elster is now seen lying in a heap, seemingly passing from her injuries, and the game just ends. Yeah, kind of an abrupt ending, would you say? Huh, even the main menu is different too. But of course, that's not truly it. We wake up the same way as we did in the beginning, but everything seemingly is better now. We're now just floating out in the depths of space. This is where we also get a little bit more background as to exactly why we're even here to begin with. We are on one of many scout ships, the Penrose 512 to be specific, and it was issued by the totalitarian nation of Elster to find inhabitable planets. Each ship is manned by a Gestalt, Aryan in this case, and a replica, Elster. Gestalts have rules they have to follow for the replicas, like don't give them photographs, don't show movies, don't let them listen to music, or form any relationship whatsoever with your replica. With almost all those rules being broken in the next scene with Aryan and Elster sharing a relationship with one another, a very intimate one in fact. They're even celebrating their 3,000 cycle anniversary too, so fuck it, we may be breaking rules here, but we would support gay rights, so let's just have the two have their moment. That moment is short-lived, however, as we soon cut back to where we were. Aryan standing over Elster's body, reminding her of her promise. After borrowing some dead parts from Elster, since they're not going to be really using it anymore, we jump down one last pit into the final area of the game. This is where we also meet Isha one last time. However, she soon disappears in front of Elster, likely from the same thing that killed the other Gestalts, also seemingly failing to find the person she's looking for. We finally encounter the final boss too, Falk, who was someone I briefly mentioned earlier, but now has absorbed Elster's memories, and because of that she's now suffering from a case of identity crisis, leading her to try to kill Elster. However, Elster finishes off Falk, with Falk stating they are now one. The last thing we need to do now is just reach Aryan, not before killing Alder one last time, as he pulls out a knife and stabs Elster in the eye just as Isha did to him, but he receives a bullet in the gut in the process. Alder warns Elster by doing this she will ruin everything, but Elster ignores him and marches on to the Red Desert once again. We make it back to the ship one last time, and this is where stuff starts to become a little more clear. Aryan used to be bullied by her classmates, and trying to find some sort of escape from that, and just everything in general, she chose to join the Penrose project. And while everything was seemingly looking up for her, that's where the reality of the project really revealed itself. If a scout ship was unable to find a planet within its cycles, it would be left for dead basically. What doesn't help is that the ship slowly decays over time, leading to the ship's reactor malfunctioning and leading Aryan to experience side effects of radiation poisoning. Her hair starts to turn white, falling out, along with some teeth. Her body just shutting down entirely. The one thing the report recommends is to not prolong your existence afterwards, and let your replica, while they're still functioning, kill you off, or put you in a cryopod, making it your permanent home. Aryan didn't want to die, but she didn't want to continue living on like this. She just wanted it all to end. Elster, seeing no other option, places Aryan in the cryosleep to try to keep her alive as much as possible. However, Elster's body would soon start failing as well, and what we see in Aryan's chambers is just the remains of Elster. She's long been dead at this point, but that doesn't matter anymore. Elster frees Aryan from cryo, asking if she remembers her and her promise. She, however, doesn't, but it doesn't matter to her right now. All she wants to do is stay with her till the very end, until she parts. And with that, Aryan rests her hand on Elster's head, as the screen goes to black, ending Signalis' story. This is just one of the endings, and while I could explain them all, I think I'll let you all figure that out yourselves. And that's not because I didn't decide to go through the game again just to get them all. Signalis, like its contemporaries in the horror scene, is a story filled with a lot of nuance and symbolism related to the game's themes and characters. Stuff at which I don't really feel qualified to talk about, in a very in-depth way anyways. I feel like there are other channels on here that do a better job than me at explaining the ins and outs of the story. If I were to say what Signalis represents, it's grief, loss, regret. Everyone has experienced some sort of loss. Everyone. Elster, Isha, even Alder. It's them trying to process and deal with the loss of someone they love. Going through this personal hell of theirs to find some sort of closure. It somewhat borders on nihilism too, with this nation sending out those to their depths, trying to find some purpose within their lives, which they may or may not even find. Something Aryan was searching for, but we see what happened to her. At the same time, though, there are those glimpses of hope. Elster's love for her, pushing her through all this just to find her. All to find that closure that she's seeking for. There's probably a lot more I'm not seeing or understanding, but what I can see of Signalis is that it's a tragic love story of two people trying to find purpose in a bleak world that's seemingly against them. I hope I got that right. English was never my highest of grades. But at the same time too, I do want to give an honest attempt to get my thoughts across, even if it may sound like I'm coming off as an ass. All I'll say is I greatly enjoyed the plot. Also, damn, this is the longest plot synopsis I've done so far. Can't wait till I get to Persona 3, that'll be half an hour. Alright, so what of the gameplay itself? Signalis plays like any other PS1 horror game. Tank-based movements, fixed camera angles. This goes for the combat as well. Since Elster is a combat unit, she can lock onto enemies using the right stick while aiming. Holding onto your lock-on long enough will make your shots more accurate, also a greater chance to take down enemies with fewer shots. However, to finish off an enemy, you'll need to stomp on them to make sure they stop squirming, just like in Silent Hill again. Or if we're gonna go by setting, Dead Space. After some time, however, enemies will get right back up and try to kill you again. But you can permanently kill them off for good by using either thermite or the flare gun to burn their bodies. Just like the Crimson Heads from Resident Evil Remake. There are plenty of weapons and items to use during your adventure. However, of course, that would make the game way too easy if you'd be able to carry everything with you. So that's why there's the rule of 6. And to quote the game here, never carry more than 6 items on your person. Private property is a privilege. Keep your pockets empty and your bag light. Is having a small inventory annoying? Yeah, kind of. Then again, it's about the same size you get as Chris in Resident Evil 1 if I recall. I like this sort of system, however, where I have to strategize what items I need at that point, and not to hoard everything in my inventory, except when it comes to the likes of the flashlight, where I don't get why that's not a permanent item, since it takes up one slot in your inventory, and it's required to go through certain rooms like pitch black dark rooms, or the fiber wire rooms you'll see later on, which are impossible to see without the flashlight. Not to mention these couple of doors you'll encounter throughout the game that require 6 items in order to open, meaning that you have to go back and forth through the safe room to put in the key items if you don't already have them all in your inventory, or empty your inventory out in the safe room, put them all in, and then go back to the safe room again to reclaim all your items. The final area of the game as well is filled with this sort of annoyance, with the amount of items you need in order to solve puzzles and to unlock all the doors. A lot of frequent trips back to the safe room in that area. I would say that's a detriment to the game itself, until I learned that there was an update recently where now they can change the inventory size from 6 to 8, in both the flashlight and the eidetic module that doesn't take up an inventory slot anymore. But you also keep the original inventory design if you want to as well, while also keeping those changes for both those items. I didn't know this was a thing until after my playthrough, so yeah, that's nice. Honestly, kinda gets rid of that problem altogether. But say if you were still playing it as it originally intended, yeah, it's an annoyance. So one thing I forgot to mention about this upgraded inventory system is that it's only on the PC version of the game. As of now, there's still no console release of it, so if you wanted to experience this new inventory system, you gotta buy the PC version. Don't know if it'll ever come to console, but keep that in mind if you ever decide to buy Signalis. Besides the Kratos replica units you'll encounter, there are a couple other variants too. Not many, but there are some unique ones. Like this one, which I know is supposed to be the legs of the replica units mutilated and combined into some freakish form. But the legs look like a snout of an elephant or whatever, and honestly it's kind of a little goofy. Oh, look at the little goofy guy when he starts trying to kill me. There are ones with these little riot shields, and there's... Oh, hey! What the hell is this? Yeah, there are these ones that fuck up your screen and require you using the radio in order to find the real one. I mean, it's cool and effect and all, but goddamn, it doesn't hurt my eyes. Thankfully, I encounter like 3 of them throughout the game. There are a few bosses, and by a few I mean just 3. The first boss, however, becomes a rare enemy you will encounter later on. The second one being this little cage guy, whatever, he doesn't put up much of a challenge. Hell, I think you can't even defeat the second boss until Isha gets right back up on her feet and shoots the bastard before getting knocked out by your own gun. Like, goddamn, do you got the elephant gun or some shit? Most common encounters you can simply sneak past by just walking around them. But the moment they let out their little... you know you're in for some trouble. If you didn't hear that, the soundtrack will let you know, surely. Like, let's talk about that real quick as well. Like, when I think of a track from this game, I think of Incinerator. Why? Well, take a listen. The banging of metal, the endless screeching in the background, like someone being trapped in an incinerator. Then we got the puzzles, which are puzzles if that makes any sense. These require a lot of trial and error or memorization. The eidetic module will allow you to take pictures of puzzles for later use. However, I find this item pretty pointless for one thing. Yeah, systems have screenshot features by default, so I don't see a reason to use that item that will take up an inventory space, if I wasn't using the new settings anyways. Or you could just get the traditional piece of paper out and just write down the answers on them. Granted, not every puzzle has you doing this. Well, minus the water tank puzzle, which you bet your ass I'm writing that shit down because in the fuck trying to memorize all this. Theirs is a... Hey, shut up over there, cracked up! There is this Astro puzzle, though I never got, nor understood how you're supposed to do it. I know it has something to do with the planets and stars on a map you'll see in a different room, but I just never figured it out. Thank God for guides. It also includes this tarot card one, which, yeah, I don't know, really. And from what I understand as well, that certain puzzle solutions are also different based on your playthrough. I think some of the major ones, like that are related to the plot and whatnot, don't change, but the ones with the codes do. Signalis engrossed me from the moment it started to the moment it ended. Still lingering in the back of my head ever since I first played it a year ago. And while I don't feel like I got hit as hard as many other people who have played this game, I don't know, I think someone just beat Signalis to the punch when it came to existentialism. To me anyways. Maybe I'll talk about that game one day, but not right now. You should definitely, without a doubt, play Signalis. Well, I've been SonicMan. Thank you for watching. Have a good day, or night, or whatever, and take care.